Hello, and welcome to Minipan True Crime. In this episode, we're going to bring you some frustrating and engaging information concerning those innocent folks who end up behind bars due to no wrongdoings of their own. Now, for these falsely accused, fortune is in their favor in the end. Not everyone is so lucky. Top 5 locked up innocent people. Ricky Jackson. Ricky Jackson was a teenager living in Cleveland, Ohio, and brimming with dreams and aspirations. However, those dreams were shattered after he was wrongfully accused and sentenced to death in 1975. It started with 13-year-old Eddie Vernon falsely testifying to witness the murder-robbery case. He said Ricky shot Harold to death while his brothers Wiley and Ronnie were accomplices. Unlike other co-defendants, Ricky was sentenced to life in prison without parole since he was considered the actual shooter. He served 39 years, the longest time in prison of any innocent person in U.S. history. But the truth has a weird way of surfacing even in the darkest moment. Things took a shocking twist in 2011 when Cleveland Scene magazine published a detailed case examination. The team highlighted several inconsistencies in the witness's testimony, casting doubts on Eddie's original account. Most importantly, there was no evidence linking Ricky and his brothers to the crime. It was then that the truth was revealed. It turned out that Eddie had been carrying the guilt for years. He even confessed to his pastor that he lied to the police about witnessing the crime, and his reason was not far-fetched. He would have told the truth, but the officers said it was too late to change his story. Thankfully, he recounted the incident, leaving room for a retrial. Attorneys with the Ohio Innocence Project filed a petition for a new trial on Jackson's behalf. In November 2014, Judge Richard McMonigle vacated Ricky and his brothers' convictions and dropped the charges against them. The Central Park Five. One spring evening in 1989, some teenagers, numbering around 30, gathered in Central Park, New York. That same night, a white woman, 28-year-old Tricia Miele, was jogging in the park. What started as a peaceful workout turned out to be one of the most famous crime cases in the U.S. Hours later, she was found, beaten, and raped. In the wake of the crime, 5 Hispanic boys aged 14 and 16 were arrested and charged with rape and murder. After 7 hours of unending interrogation without their parents, they admitted to assaulting Tricia. Following their confession, they were found guilty and thrown behind bars. But here's the catch: they never committed the crime. The DNA evidence from semen found at the scene didn't match theirs. However, the police relied on their forced confession to prosecute them. In the wake of the case, Donald Trump, a New York property mogul at the time, did something. He spent $85,000 on newspaper ads calling for the death penalty for murderers. Little did he know that the murderer was out there walking free. It wasn't until 2002 that the real criminal exposed himself. A man called Reyes confessed to the police that he attacked and sexually assaulted Tricia when he was 17. Even more shocking was that he revealed some gory details that were not public knowledge. And to further confirm his involvement, his DNA matched the one found at the crime scene. After nearly serving their complete sentence, all 5 men were cleared of the charges. Upon their release, they filed a civil suit against New York City and were awarded $41 million in compensation. Henry and Leon. When Henry was 19 and his brother Leon was 15, they struggled with intellectual disabilities that made reading and writing impossible. Their condition worsened following their arrest in connection to Sabrina Buey's death. The 11-year-old was found dead in a soybean field in a small town near the South Carolina border. She was raped and was suffocated with her panties. After a tip-off from an informant, the police apprehended the boys and interrogated them. With no lawyer present, they signed confessions implicating them in the rape and murder. The brothers were sentenced to death in 1985, with Leon becoming the state's youngest death row inmate. On the other hand, Henry became the state's longest-serving inmate on death row. In 2009, Henry took a bold step. He approached the North Carolina Innocence Inquiry Commission to re-examine his case. The organization didn't just take it up, but discovered DNA evidence on a Newport cigarette butt found at the crime scene. Fortunately, it matched up with another man convicted of rape and murder within the same period Dewey was found dead. The DNA evidence was enough for the court to overturn the wrongful conviction in 2014. After their release, they pursued a civil action suit against the police for violating their rights and were awarded $75 million in damages. Kimberly Long. In the early hours of October 6, 2003, Kimberly Long walked into her home only to find her boyfriend Aziz in a pool of blood. She immediately phoned 911, who arrived at the scene and confirmed that he was long dead. She was taken to the Corona Police Department, where she recounted her side of the story. Earlier that night, she stormed out of the house to her friends after an argument and returned the following morning. Aziz had no prominent enemies except his ex-girlfriend. 2 days later, Jeff Dills, a friend of the couple's, informed the police that on that fateful night, Aziz dropped Kimberly off at 1:20 a.m., about 49 minutes before the 911 call. Officers believed Jeff and shifted their focus to Kim. Unknown to her, Jeff was a suspect and had secretly offered to help law enforcement in the investigation. He died before being thoroughly investigated, but his statement stood against Kim. In 2005, the jury issued a life sentence despite the lack of concrete evidence against her. Luckily, Judge Makers had issues with this trial. After years of back and forth with the DA's office, Kim's lawyers and the California Innocence Project unearthed the truth. Forensic pathology evidence showed that Aziz died long before 1:20 a.m., and an unknown male DNA was at the crime scene. And if that wasn't enough, Kimberly showed proof that his ex-girlfriend made harassing phone calls months before the murder. In another instance, she threatened to slash Kim and Aziz's throat. She once sent Kimberly a letter saying, "I will always get the laugh in the end." In the light of the glaring evidence, Judge Magers reversed her conviction. Muhammad Aziz and Khalil Islam. Muhammad Aziz and Khalil Islam were accused of assassinating Malcolm X and served 20 and 22 years respectively. They maintained their innocence from the start of the trial, but no one listened. Before his death, Malcolm X was a prominent voice of the Nation of Islam, but ironically, his divergent views didn't sit well with many, leading them to label him a traitor. Then on February 21, 1965, he was shot dead. Aziz and Islam, including a third man, Muhaid Abdul Halim, were convicted and sentenced to life in prison. The third man admitted to shooting the victim, but emphasized that neither Aziz nor Islam were involved. Also, no evidence linked them to the crime because both men were at home in the Bronx when Malcolm was killed. Unfortunately, they lived the rest of their lives branded as convicted murderers of one of history's most famous civil rights leaders. Months turned into years, and years into decades, with no hope of getting out. Luck shone on them in 2021 when a Manhattan judge dismissed their conviction after prosecutors found new evidence suggesting witness intimidation and suppression of evidence. The judge confirmed that the men were wrongly convicted. Islam, now deceased, lived his whole life hoping to clear his name. Aziz, now in his 80s, not only lived to see their conviction overturned, but received $26 million as compensation for the wrongful convictions. Have you ever been falsely accused? How did you get out of it? Please tell your story in the comments below, and while at it, smash the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell to get notified of our latest videos. And if you love true crime as much as we do, check out Minipan's new Patreon. We're welcoming our first subscriber, Victor Armstrong. Victor, we welcome you to the Minipan True Crime family, and thank you for your gracious support. Be sure to let us know what you'd like to see in our Patreon, and additionally, what stories you'd like for us to take a deep dive on. We strive to bring you only the best. We welcome your comments on the episode and all that you believe we're doing right and wrong. We're always listening to your voices. We look forward to bringing you our next installment. In the meantime, as always, be sure to watch your back. Good night.